Thank you for staying with us. You're still watching The Breakfast on Plus TV Africa. Wike opposes zoning PDP presidential ticket to North in 2027. FCT Minister Nyesom Wike has stated that the PDP cannot afford to zone its presidential ticket to the North for the 2027 elections. He warned that if the APC follows this path in 2031, the PDP should not replicate the same mistake, calling it a strategic failure. Wike addressed rumors of his disloyalty to the PDP, clarifying that he hadn't left the party but was advocating for justice. He emphasized that he was working to rebuild the PDP rather than tear it apart. The former Rivers State governor also criticized the party for not honoring its agreement to zone the presidency to the South during the 2023 election, a decision he believed contributed to their loss. Joining us to make sense of all of this morning is Biodun Sowunmi. He's a political analyst. Good morning, sir. Thank you for joining us.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
All right. I think at first I'd like to start with your own take on, Wike's statement. So he said a lot of things. One is they did not zone, the presidential ticket to the South in 2023. Another is we shouldn't do that, come 2027. And he's not disloyal to his party, even though a lot of people would say there is some anti-party movement that goes on with him in the PDP. What's your take on his statements?
Well, it's quite obvious that PDP is again, Wike is again warning the PDP not to make the same mistake they made in 2027. They made the same mistake. They did commit some errors in 2023 when it came to internal zoning arrangement of PDP. That is, if you have a northern in power for 8 years, then power should move to the South, for another 8 years. Now we've had a Satana in power in the opposition party for 4 years, so there's still another 4 years there, which means the PDP can produce a Satana, to challenge for power. And it's quite clear that the issue of the internal arrangement, which was not respected, by Atiku and others, actually led to the loss of PDP in that election. In fact, it was a reason why Peter Obi actually left the PDP, for Labour Party. So we are beginning to see the play of the same scenario with Atiku coming out to say, more or less, wanting to challenge for the same office in 2027. And should that be the case, like Wike is saying that it means the same problem that led to the loss of PDP in 2023 will resurface and again will frustrate the task of being able to gain political power. In a way, when you actually look at the spirit underlying it, the Wike's argument is just about fairness and beauty, saying that otherwise they're not claiming to have more population than the South, that will perpetual dominance, domination of this power by the North to the exclusion of the South. And I think that's the point he's making, to say that look, other parties have similar arguments and it's been respected. Why is PDP not respecting his own? And in 2023, it was simple. It was not just the case of a Northern Atiku being the presidential candidate wanting to succeed another Northern. Even the chairman of the party, Yosha, came from the North. So I think if we are serious about getting the opposition to existing government right, then they need to begin, to look at what they're doing now. I don't see why Atiku would insist on contesting for 2023 presidential elections and have his way. We need to begin to look at it. In whose interest is it? Is it in the interest of Atiku himself, the PDP, or democracy in general? In my view, I think Atiku needs to step aside. There is a time when you have to swallow your ambition, you reject it, and then allow some other people to come, if only to create a viable opposition or to be able to seize power effectively. Otherwise, we are back in the same boat as in 2023.
Yeah, I agree with you, because you cannot be the person that keeps running for office every single time. And what if that's not what the people want? So you would keep failing at that. And of course, that's not even great for the party. But let's talk about the internal conflict in PDP, because we've seen a whole lot of ruckus with the PDP, and in fact, Delta State has moved, entire state has moved to an APC state at the moment. With this, how do you think they need to resolve their, their own differences and ensure that they have a united front come 2027?
Oh, certainly, PDP can resolve its problems. They know what the problem is. Let's go back into history. You know how this problem came into being. The issue of rivers can be resolved. I mean, it's a battle between Wike to some extent and the government, similar to Fubara, and also the decision of the Supreme Court, the judgment of the Supreme Court, saying that there is no government in Rivers State. So both parties can come together. The governor, Wike, and the House of Assembly can come together and make a resolution to have the government in Rivers State that is acceptable in law. That is fine. I think the president will have no choice but to lift, the suspension, which is being challenged but anyway by level PDP governors. The other crisis within PDP is actually at the national level, which is one, the issue of the national secretary. Who amongst the contenders will be the real national secretary to sign the forms and to sign the INEC papers for candidates? No one is sure up to today. The Supreme Court has decided in line with its past rule that look, the issue of party leadership has nothing to do with the courts, and therefore the courts cannot get involved. So PDP leaders themselves need to sit down together. The two factions in PDP. One has 5 governors, the other has 5 governors, with 1 governor suspended. So the two factions need to sit down and agree on who will be the national secretary. The question of the imposition of one over the other will not work in this situation based on the Supreme Court judgment. It's quite clear that those who are opposed to Aya will have the case, in the sense that it led to go and contest the election. So therefore, it will not at the same time be the national secretary. So, but they need to, it requires a political solution, and that's the only way out. And in relation to the last issue, which is the next presidential candidate, I think Atiku is the only one who can help the party in that respect by actually, jettisoning his own
personal ambition
and allow the party to produce a candidate from the south, and that will solve the problem.
So, I mean, the first one that you highlighted was obviously Rivers State and Governor Sim. In fact, I think yesterday in the papers, he had already said that his mind is no longer there. He doesn't think he wants to come back. So I don't know how that is going to work. And if we're already seeing that PDP is a bit divided, how do you think, that plays on the perception of the public? Because a lot of people now see them as maybe PDP is just a joke. Maybe PDP might not be a strong opposition come 2027. What do you think they can do to ensure that they bring things together, they give us a candidate that would work, and that people would want to just, vote for? I think we just lost. Did we have him back? Okay, I think we just lost him. But I mean, what we're discussing right now is the fact that Wike obviously has made a statement. PDP is going through a bit of a time right now, and Wike had said, he's opposing the zoning come 2027. But we're not just looking at that, we're looking at the fact that PDP has their issues. How can they sort it out? Everybody have their own personal ambition, to be honest, and everybody wants to be a leader. And when you have a group of people or a group of leaders, one has to give way for the other. So how can PDP come together regardless of their own personal ambition? And right now I'm talking about, the presidential candidate of the 2023 general elections for PDP, Atiku Abubakar, who has always been the forerunner when it comes to the presidential run, right? So how can people just say, you know what, I know I want to become president, but if it's not working in my favor, maybe I have to jettison my own personal ambition and ensure that the party chooses someone else. And, you know, with that, consolidating the party proper to ensure that they can take over again, because, I mean, PDP was the ruling party for many years before APC came into power, and APC has just done about 10 years so far. So if PDP wants to come back, you know, they definitely need to start to dot the I's, cross the T's, tighten up things in the party, and that's what we're looking at right now. Obviously, the crisis in the PDP, especially with, you know, Delta State moving over to APC, so they're already even losing some of their governors. Imagine we have just about 11 governors for the PDP, so that means APC has really taken over Nigeria, and I'm sure people want options. You know, in the last segment, I was just even talking about how, you know, there are not enough options, and it seems, or rather in the off the press, and it seems that, you know, everybody just think that their vote doesn't count. So how do I even make my vote count if I don't like the candidates that I have or that I see? And most times we see that, you know, the leaders that we have are selected, not elected. So yeah, these are the things that we need to really look at. We need to talk about it, not just even the PDP, not the APC, not just NNPP or LP, but even INEC as well. What is INEC doing? How are they restructuring to ensure that 2027, you know, we can vote the people that we want? Transformational leaders. Okay, I think we have him back. Can you hear me, sir?
Yes.
Fantastic. We lost you for a bit, but glad to have you back. So what I was speaking about is, you know, the public perception, because if people are saying that, you know, PDP might not have their game on at the moment, then how does that, you know, translate to the public? And come 2027, would they even want to vote for PDP?
Yeah, I think, honestly speaking, many people are thinking that PDP actually needs to rebrand. PDP as it is today seems to be badly weakened, badly fractured. So, except we see a kind of a new PDP.
Would you suggest a coalition?
We may begin to see that people have lost faith in terms of who will be opposition party in the country.
Yeah. Would you suggest a coalition?
So far, they have refused to rebrand.
Can you hear me?
I'm not saying, look, we are not joining any coalition or dissolving ourselves into any coalition. And that's a major problem. So if they want to remain as PDP, then they have a lot of work to do, because many members who are occupying public offices have actually led that, particularly at the national level. Recently, we had the Delta State governor leading with members of the House of Assembly.
Yeah, so I was just even asking that for you as a person, I mean, you are in the political space, would you suggest a coalition for PDP when you're speaking about them rebranding?
Yeah, actually, to be honest with you, APC is so strong currently that they probably need to go into a coalition to be able to upstage APC. Don't forget, in the midst of the economic pains, you know, caused by the reforms of the APC-led government, we still have, you know, APC winning Edo State, winning Ondo State. Even if anyone alleges rigging, which the court have not established, the fact of the matter is we cannot even, we are not popular. So you begin to see that PDP needs to go into coalition, whether they like it or not. They need to borrow a lead from the APC. And how the APC came into being, it didn't just happen overnight. We had the same transition, you know, from AD to AC, AC to ACN, ACN to APC. So these are issues which the leaders of PDP needs to challenge. But ruling out coalition, ruling out, you know, the branding will not solve the problem. I think they will only end up, you know, being stuck with the stigma of a failed party.
So, I mean, for Wike now, obviously, has opposed the zoning, right? And I'm sure a lot of people would say that limits meritocracy. If you're zoning and saying, oh, it's just this particular zone that gets to represent us. But how do we balance, you know, equality? How do we balance representation for everybody in the party, especially if they want to win in 2027?
Yeah, it's quite clear that when you face the kind of situation we face in Nigeria, where there is no region, whether the north or south, that can win presidential election on its own, if you look at the constitution, because you need the spread, then you must make room, to ensure that everybody has, everyone has equal opportunity, equal access to political power. The era of under the military, where the North dominated political power for so long, to the exclusion of the South, is gone. Otherwise, we would have a fractured country. Nobody wants Nigeria to go. The fact of the matter is, we need to ensure that there is a sense of balance, there is a sense of representation by ethnic groups within the country. You cannot have a country with diverse ethnic groups, over 350 distinctive languages, and then insist that it's only one region that will produce the president through the fact that they have majority. No, it will never happen like that. We saw a situation in Syria where a minority was in office, the Alawites, represented by Bashar Assad. Eventually it collapsed. Nobody wants Nigeria to collapse. I think we need to see, even though it's not in the constitution, we can argue for merit, but there's nowhere or section in the country where you do not have a meritorious candidate. It's not the monopoly of any section of the country. So therefore, we need to allow some form of meaningful representation, to capture our diversity rather than disregarding it.
Finally, I'm just going to ask, we have just maybe about 1 minute, but what are some things that for you, maybe you saw in the 2020 general elections that happened with the PDP that you think they definitely need to learn from if they want to succeed in 2027?
Yeah, well, certainly, unity is very, very important.
Yeah.
You cannot have a divided party and then expect to win election. No, it's never happened in history. So they need to build the party. First thing is to make sure the party is united, and secondly is to make sure that they respect their own internal agreement. They should never sacrifice internal agreement, that has been able to ensure that PDP ruled Nigeria for 16 years, and then you sacrifice that, at the altar of one person's ambition. That should never happen. And the moment that happens, then you are breaking up the party, and that's exactly why PDP is so wicked now. So one can only hope they will learn those issues and then come out stronger than how they have today.
Well, that's what we want, because we want, different political parties to present really good leaders that we can vote for, that we can elect. And, if PDP can ensure that whatever is going on in their own party, they solve it as swiftly as possible, come back and have a united front. And I'm sure the people would definitely want to see them in power as well, as long as they can give us what we need, which is, a transformational leader, someone who would, have a heart for the people and come and do the work in Nigeria. Anyways, this is how much we can take. Right now, I want to say thank you so much, Mr. Biodun, for coming. It's a pleasure having you this morning. Thank you for your time.
Thank you for having me.
Have a wonderful day, sir. Otherwise, we've been speaking with Biodun Sowunmi. He's a political analyst, and we've just been looking at the fact that Wike has opposed zoning to the north for the 2027 election, and also talking about, the rockers that has hit PDP so far and what they need to do to ensure that they can succeed come 2027. This is where we have to wrap up the show right now. Thank you so much for having the breakfast with me. My name is Rume Paulson. I'll see you again tomorrow. Have a wonderful day. Good morning.